And we are this morning going to be talking about family engagement and SEBL, kind of how those two things tie together. Um, I am Sarah Gentry. I am the Region 5 Social Emotional and Behavioral Learning Specialist. I cover ESU 13, 15, and 16. And I'm going to go ahead and let my colleagues introduce themselves. We'll go backwards today, Chandra, if you want to go ahead and introduce yourself next.
Yeah, I'm Chandra Essex. I'm the SEBL Specialist for Region 4. So I work with ESUs 9, 10, 11, and 17.
Perfect, thanks. I'm Jill Gunther, one of the other SEBL specialists. I currently serve Region 2 and 3. We actually just posted for our open position, I believe it was yesterday. So if you know anybody interested, we are looking for an additional SEBL specialist.
And I'm Mackenzie Rydell. I serve Region 1, so that includes ESUs 4, 5, and 6, and also LPS. And I'm just here to watch today.
We're glad you're here, Mackenzie. Okay, we also, this month, because we're talking about family engagement, we've brought in a couple of special guests. So in an effort to really promote that coherence and working together, collaborating with our NDE partners, our Coffee Connects are all geared kind of around different topics where we have specialists over at NDE. So today, we're welcoming Liz Ham and Mariela Resendez from NDE. I'll go ahead and let you guys introduce yourselves really quick and explain your role.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Liz Ham, and I am the Family and Community Engagement Specialist, as well as working with the 21st Century After School programs for the Nebraska Department of Education. And I just started about 6 or 7 weeks ago, so I'm still pretty new in my role, but I'm excited to be here with you today.
And good morning. I know a lot of you. It's wonderful to see some familiar faces today. So I'm Mariela Resendez Alvarado. I'm the Director of School Mental Health. And this is still very new. I am also now going to be the director of our 21st Century Community Learning Centers programs that the Department of Education works on through the Federal Department of Education on after-school programming. And so I'm kind of in between both worlds, the school mental health and also then supporting our 21st Century Community Learning Centers. And so excited to be here. And obviously, I see all of the connections of how important family and community engagement is to both school mental health and also then how impactful that can be then for our after-school programming to make sure that students are receiving services, not only academic, but also for that social emotional learning aspect that we know we all want our students to have.
Awesome. Congratulations, Mariela, and thank you. So moving forward, we always start our presentations with a welcome and inclusion activity. Today, we just kind of wanted you guys, we're about a month into school. Hopefully we've all kind of let go of summer. I don't know if I fully have, but I'm working on it. So today we really wanted to focus on what is one thing that we're happy about letting go of with summer, leaving behind, and one thing that we're really looking forward to this school year. We'd encourage you guys to maybe write that down, bank it in your mind, but just take a minute and reflect. And if anybody wants to unmute and share, we'd be happy to hear that. Leaving behind heat and humidity. I think that's probably mine too. And pool maintenance. We have an above ground pool and it was a bear this summer. Happy to not have to deal with that anymore. How about what are we looking forward to with the school year? Anybody have any? I got cool weather. I'm excited to be around adults again when I get to go into schools and work with people, so that's fun. Okay, we will move forward. Our next slide, we share the different resources on our Padlet. This is something that we're always working through. We've got several different categories in there, but we do upload all of our Coffee Connects. So if you're looking for one of the previous recordings, you could go in there. All of the resources from our previous ones, all of the resources that are linked into these slide decks. everything. It is just packed full of resources. So if you're looking for SEBL resources, our Padlet's another great place to go. The password's NeMTSS, all caps. So we hope that that's pretty easy for everyone to remember. But if this is something you want to bookmark and utilize, just another great resource that we like to kind of have organized for you guys. And then we like to kind of kick things off with a quote. So this quote by Jane Hull, getting kind of like rooted in the work of family engagement. She said that at the end of the day, the most overwhelming key to a child's success is the positive involvement of the parents. And I think as educators, we all know that, and we're always working, almost all of my schools, I feel like they're striving to work for improving their family engagement, getting people more involved. Even external stakeholders, how do we get them more involved? So really knowing that it really takes that village, including the parents, to really create that those positive outcomes for our students. So we just really liked what Jane had to say and wanted to share it with you all. And then to kind of define what is social, emotional, and behavioral learning, really what this is for us at NeMTSS, everything we do is systematic. We don't think that SEBL is something that just kind of happens. It does happen organically, but we really want to make sure that there's a process in place to ensure that it's happening the best way it could happen, both for our students and for our adults. So we want to create those safe and supportive environments. And we know that by promoting SEBL, that's what we're doing. We're looking at our PBIS, our expectations, those things. We're teaching the expectations, making sure that our students know what to expect when they're in school. That promotes a culture of safety, gives them the opportunity to practice those SEB skills. We know that as students learn and develop those skills and become stronger, it really promotes more positive mental health outcomes. We've got our skills star kind of in the corner, and then we like to tie it into career readiness. We know through research that employers are looking for very specific skills that fall into our SEB skills, and making sure that our students, when they leave, they're ready to go into higher learning or ready to go into the workforce and have those SEB skills that they need. And so our next slide, we kind of break down those SEB skills a little bit more. We've got our top 5, I guess we call them, that we've identified in Nebraska: our pro-social behaviors, our self-awareness skills, our self-management skills, our problem-solving skills, and our relationship skills. These are all skills that we've broken down, spent a lot of time researching, working on creating this web with those guiding questions for our students to kind of look through, like, how do I know myself, and what does that look like for self-awareness? And when we created this graphic, we really wanted it to be something that our educators could print off and take into the classroom and say, hey, you know what, I'm really struggling. I know I need to work on some SEB skills, and everybody's talking about this, and I need to make it better in my classroom. And to look at this and say, hey, I'm already doing some of these things. Like, my kids are practicing perspective taking every day in this way. And then looking and saying, oh, but you know what, maybe we're not setting goals. And that's something that I could grow in. And this web is actually expanded. Each of those are expanded on with more strategies and ways for our teachers to promote those skills in their classroom. And so I think I get to pass it to Jill.
You do, yes. Thanks, Sarah. So like we mentioned, we're really going to focus on just family engagement. Mariella and Liz have some great resources and information to share with us. But we just kind of wanted to ground us too, just in those essential elements. So you guys are probably familiar with our 4 essential elements. We have that layered continuum of support, the database decision-making, infrastructure and shared leadership, and then communication and collaboration. So as we're going through and really talking about that family engagement piece, it really falls within that essential element of communication and collaboration, which we have defined here. So really thinking about how we're getting that student voice, how we are engaging students, that family and caregiver involvement, and then those community partnerships as well. And with that, to continue just kind of like defining that communication piece. So when we're thinking about that essential element of communication and collaboration, we want that communication. So as we're thinking about that family engagement piece, we want our communication with our families, with our community members, with our caregivers, to be clear and concise. We want it to be regular. We want it to be focused on student successes. One of the big ones, we want it to be two-way, right? We don't want to just be sharing the information. We want to have that two-way, that back and forth communication, and then interpreted, translated as needed as well. The collaboration piece, so really thinking about, again, we're going to kind of focus on that green bubble there, that family and caregiver involvement as we're thinking about that collaboration piece of our essential element. To also with that, so really thinking about our SIP template. So just to kind of bring it all together, just kind of like that full circle piece that we wanted to point out here as part of the Nebraska MTSS SIP template there, we have that area for that communication plan and really thinking about all of those stakeholders too. And so really thinking about the types of information that we're communicating, what that frequency is, who is doing that communication. So again, just kind of bringing that in to really tie in as we're talking about that family engagement piece as well. And then really the value. So we're going to talk a little bit about the value of that family involvement, family engagement, and then a few of those barriers and some strategies, some resources around kind of overcoming some of those barriers that we might face. So the value when we're thinking about really involving and engaging our families, some of those results that we see. So we see that improved homework completion from our students. We see that they have greater attention, greater engagement. Those class participation rates increase, and we have those improved student, teacher, just overall interactions and relationships built when we really have that strong teacher and family or caregiver communication open. On the other side there, we have students whose families are involved in their school experiences, some of those things that they're more likely to do. So thinking about those, so more likely to achieve those higher grades, those higher test scores. Attendance is better, so more likely to be in attendance, demonstrating those better just overall social skills, overall just behavior skills, and then adapting, adjusting, being more resilient in school. Getting into some of those barriers. So we have some family barriers on one side you'll see, and then some school barriers on the other. So some of those common barriers can sometimes be just scheduling, right? So we're going to talk through that a little bit. Maybe different, few or no experiences with formal education from the family or caregivers. Maybe recent immigrants may experience stress due to cultural dissonance. So really kind of thinking about some of those common barriers that we might come across. And then on the flip side there, thinking about some of the school barriers, so limited time again. So time is always one of those pieces. Maybe it's no formal communication plan. So kind of thinking about when we were talking about the essential element piece, maybe it's we don't have a true formal communication plan or what that might look like in our school or district in place. Maybe it's lack of preparation. Maybe it's that administrative support and really kind of how we might engage some of that administrative support for our families. Maybe it's unrealistic expectations, or maybe it's that we're just kind of thinking like, oh, the families aren't involved because they don't want to be. So again, just kind of thinking through and talking through. Obviously, we could probably add some other barriers, some common school barriers or family barriers to this list as well, but just a few that we might come across. So we have our experts here that have joined us. So Liz and Mariella, they're going to talk about just a few of the resources that we have available to kind of help support some of those different barriers as well.
Sure, I can start. So as you've seen kind of in some of the slides, there are barriers and other things that affect schools differently than they affect families. And that's the same thing with our resources. So we have some resources that are specifically aimed towards families and some that are specifically aimed towards schools or community partners. So in your PDF copy of the slides, these should link you to all of our different websites and just a few resources that we pulled for you. The one I want to talk about is kind of that little icon there on the right side saying coming soon is a lending library. And so this is going to be housed at ESU 3 in partnership with NDE and a grant from the Nebraska Statewide Family Engagement Center. And this will be for early childhood, schools, childcare centers, anything like that, to check out something for family engagement. So they have a family engagement night kit or educational books for professionals, things like that. So it's not ready just yet, but it will be hopefully very soon. And we'll make sure that we announce that. This would be at no cost to you. The grant that we have would ship it to you. And then we would be able to ship that back when you were done with it. So still kind of working out those details, but that's an exciting resource coming soon. And we also have, let's see, what else was I wanting to talk about? Just in partnership with the Nebraska Statewide Family Engagement Center. Brian, who is the director of that, used to be in my position, so we still work very closely together. If any of you know him, and so he's been a great resource as I've been transitioning into this role. Mary Ellen, what would you like to say about this slide?
I think the big thing is that, yes, family and community engagement is a big piece that the Nebraska Department of Education is working on to make sure that then resources are available and that it's like a take and go versus it being like, what am I doing? Like, how am I going to engage our families? We have so many resources that we are planning to then roll out to you so that you can start building more than just, let's say, a family movie night. Like, how are you actually engaging beyond just an event? How are you communicating with your families? What does that look like, right? Because again, depending on where the family is, where the educator is as well, we want to make sure that we are providing those resources then for that continuous engagement so that, again, it's meaningful both for the educator and for the caregiver, the student, whoever it is that is a part of that young person's life, to make sure that they're engaged in what is happening during the school day. And how, again, they can continue to provide the care and support at home, in the community. That's a big piece that I know Liz and I are going to be working on, is like coming up with those community partners that can then help and support. It could be with after school tutoring. It could be with, like an art club or a language club that is being provided by a community partner. But again, looking at what are the resources that both schools and caregivers can then be a part of and understand, so that we can work to make sure that students are given the opportunities to be engaged and to have a positive environment in the school and in their community, so that, again, they feel welcomed and that they feel involved in what they are doing for their education. And again, how their caregivers can then also see it, feel it, and do it. Yes, so as we're looking at, again, how do we connect this all again to the social emotional well-being of young people? These are some great resources. So the Strong Start Kit is on there, the social emotional toolkit. These are both, again, like, you take it and then, you see where does your role fit into all of this, and how then can you implement it on, again, like your school level. I would say like my own personal level with my young little people that I have, that I'm like, okay, I got to make sure that, when I praise, I'm doing it not like, oh, I really like that, but like really giving them a purpose of like, oh, why did you pick that color for your drawing? Or why is the hair wavy on this, picture that you drew? Like really digging into it to like be able to give them that space. And so that's what some of these toolkits then provide, is some of those like how to, both again as a parent or again as a caregiver, a educator, that can then give some of that knowledge then, and like the purpose behind it, the whys. And so these are really good toolkits that I personally, like I said, I've used, but also again for educators then to be able to have access to and be able to reference to them. Again, some of these are they're all available. The Strong Start Toolkit is from our Family Learning Community Network, which, as Liz had said, that's where Brian Welch, which some of you might know, that's where he's now working with and providing some of this knowledge for us to continue on that family engagement piece. And again, giving us the tools to be able then to implement these kits. So the family school community engagement framework, it started quite a few years ago we had Kim Larson, who was our 21st century and family and community engagement specialist, started this work. She started researching some of this via input from first the education service units. So she went out, met with them, asked people to come in and provide their feedback on like what would be helpful to implement a family and community engagement plan for your school district. And so she got feedback from the ESU, she got feedback from specific school districts, community partners. I think some of you might have also been on some of those calls where then it was worked out on the different aspects. And I'm going to let Liz speak because I know that she has been very close to all of this work in her new role. And again, looking at how do we implement beyond, again, just the framework, but like, what does it look like?
Yeah, so this framework, just like Mariella said, is a work of a lot of people. In the very back, you can see who all helped kind of create this and review this. Maybe some of you were on that team, and if you were, thank you for that. But it just kind of goes through 6 different focus areas that research has shown is important when you think about school, family, and community engagement. So that would be active family engagement, safe and welcoming schools, student attendance, community partnerships and support services, business and industry partnerships, and then before school, after school, and summer programs. So this is written specifically for the schools or staff that work at schools. We are also working on a framework that is geared towards families, it is finished. It has gone through, I think, 2 rounds of edits. And so now we need to kind of go and take the feedback we've received from our second round of edits and rewrite it based on that. So hopefully before the end of the year, the family engagement framework will be out. So that is an exciting resource to look forward to also.
Yeah, so the Nebraska Cafe, it's linked here on your PDF. The Department of Education has been working on this community cafe model along with our partners from Nebraska Children and Families Foundation and looking at training parents, so caregivers, so it could be, whoever is working with that young person and involved with them, that can then be a part of, again, other opportunities that may be available. It could be their school's PTA, it could be a school neighborhood advisory committee, it could be many things that they could be involved with. And so the community cafe model provides the space and the time for people to come together and come up with either an issue that is concerning and how to implement or how to get the support. An example I'll give, when I worked with a community cafe model, we had a school that was on a very busy street and parents were very concerned. I mean, a lot of people were very concerned about how to make it safer for kids to be crossing the street in that very busy intersection. And so through the community cafe model, we were able then to give them the resources and the tools to be able to build that leadership within them to then implement a plan. So they were given the resources, the training and all of that through the community cafe model. But then they were able then to work with the city to get a like the little stoplight, or I don't even know, like it's not a yield sign, it's like the little flashy light, I don't know what it's called, for traffic, right? So that they knew that people were crossing, during these hours and these hours, so then the light would be able to come on. And so through that, again, community cafe, those parents were able to get the skills, the leadership skills, to be able then to be a voice for their community, for their parent, or for their young people, and then also for the community, because it was a safety issue that was concerning to many, and so they were able to do that. Now, some of the stuff, again, that we have here on our community cafe resources is part of that, is like helping to get families engaged in how they can then, again, voice their concerns, and then not just voice them, but be able then to do something about it. Because I think that's the big thing with parents and caregivers. It's like, sure, I'll come to parent teacher conference. Sure, I'll come to this PTA fundraiser that you have, but like, is that it? And some of them do want to get further involved. And so the community cafe model gives them that opportunity to do that. And so that's one thing that I know with Nebraska Children and Families, we're working to implement across the state, that community cafe model. But again, these are some of the resources then that we have available currently in our NDE webpage with our Office of Coordinated Student Support Services to support families. And again, to give them a place where they can start getting engaged in various ways.
And then one thing I'll say about that is we have all previous recordings underneath that Nebraska Cafe resources, PowerPoints, anything handed out there. But that is, however, being sunsetted. So it is no longer happening. There just was not great attendance, especially there towards the end. I believe it started during COVID when people were really seeking that connection. And now as we're returning back to in-person things, you know, people are busy. And so we are rethinking what that looks like now. And hopefully we'll have something to kind of replace that in the future. But the team that kind of managed all of that has decided that for now we are going to sunset the Nebraska Cafe, but the resources will remain on our webpage.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Liz and Mariella. And as we continue, if there's any additional type of resources or ideas or things you want to add, please jump in. We love that connection. So we talked to Mariella mentioned a little bit about parent-teacher associations and some of those standards for those family school partnerships. What that really does is that helps open that door to welcome those families, helps with communication, really looking at the student support and from both the family and the classroom, the school perspective, and being able to speak up for every child, having that shared power and that collaboration with community. You know, parent-teacher associations, parent-teacher organizations, however you look at that, are such a great connection to families to bring it in. I know I'm engaged and involved in ours, and there's a lot of things that help me understand my daughter's school because I'm involved in that. So just the opportunities that those type of organizations can allow for families to get engaged are just so invaluable when we think about that success for students. So families who are engaged and are involved, here are some of the things that we really wanted to highlight. Families who are involved in school-wide decision-making from instruction to nutrition really help support those students. They participate in that school-led trainings. They attend meetings to learn how schools work and how they can meet their children's needs. And that one I think is really important as we think about when we engage our families. Our families have their experience from when they went to school. And we know that education has changed tremendously in 10 years, 5 years, 15 years, 20, or, you know, if we think about family or students that come from a variety of different backgrounds, maybe it's a grandparent or somebody else that is raising the child, that when you have that gap in experience from education, really helping them become engaged so they understand the language, they understand what's happening in the classroom and how they can best support their students is really important. And that's how you can really get them engaged. So helping them with the language, helping them with the terminology. We love acronyms in education. So helping explain those acronyms to families so that they can understand it. Giving opportunities for families to become engaged through, you know, how do they share their needs and their concerns for their students? How are those identified? Having their schools be a part of the neighborhood, those larger communities. Those are ways that we can get families engaged. And how you get them involved is you have them become volunteers at school functions, in the classroom, outside of the classroom. Maybe it's with a Halloween trunk or treat. There we go. That's the word I'm thinking of. You know, maybe it's with a party in the classroom, or it's as simple as maybe they're just there to help with a drop off in the morning. Maybe they're welcoming families as much as the educators are. Discuss school events, helping out with And the really important thing is just being present and reading with your children at home. I think for families to do that, it really helps with that engagement. So we want to talk to, as we think about those conditions for family engagement, it's really important, as we talk a lot about relationships first, but building those authentic relationships first with your families. Plan functions during times that allow for more engagement, and really trying to get that information from families. Every family is different, which is hard to meet one time that will fit for everybody. So maybe there are different pieces throughout. So maybe there are some families that it's easier for them to connect in the morning. So is there a brief connection point for them in the morning? Is there families that are easier to meet in the afternoons, in the evenings? So trying to meet virtually, meet in person, try to think of those different types of opportunities for engagement. There are a few different resources on this slide that we want to make sure and highlight. The and family engagement plan, suggested activities. There's 24 activities to get families involved in schools, and then the family engagement to support student success. So a lot of different ways to incorporate family engagement. And I want to invite our team and Liz and Mariella to unmute and talk a little bit about maybe what are some of those examples that they have seen school districts and family communities do. I think this is a great time to kind of share. One I'll share first is just like with my daughter's school is our school had sent home a bingo card for family engagement. And so if the students returns the bingo card, for a bingo, just a line of different activities, then the student has a reward. If there's a blackout, then there's a larger reward. And it's things like flying a kite, it's reading a book, it's camping out in the backyard with your child, which we have not done yet. It's going bowling, doing some of those. So really encouraging that family engagement from the student side. And then the students will take that back and communicate with their teachers and their peers about what they were able to do with their families. So I'll see if anybody else would like to unmute. And I think Mariella, you're unmuted.
Yes. So I worked with a principal one year that his expectation was for us to reach out to every student, their family, their caregiver, and let them know something positive about that child. It could be as simple as like they raise their hand, or they, it was like, and I joke about this because I'm like, it was like the littlest thing. Like if I noticed something from this young person that they were doing correct, or that they were like going above and beyond, being a good friend, being kind to someone, like I would pick up on that and then, make that phone call home to say, guess what? I wanted to and this was always super funny because when I would call a parent, and again, it says like, Mariella on their phone or whatever. I think some of them did have me on their phone. That's just me thinking that. But they were just like hesitant, right? Like, do I pick up? Like, this is in the middle of the day. This is after school. Like, what is this phone call going to be about? And the fact that I could make it like, hey, I wanted to let you know that Joey just, helped out, like sharpened all of the pencils in our art area, and, without even being asked, like just did it. And I wanted to let you know how thankful I am. Again, that genuine, like I'm thankful that he took it upon himself to be able to do that, and how kind, so that now the next person that goes into our art area is going to have, these sharpened pencils for them to use. I really wanted to thank you. And this mom in particular would always get calls, because this is like by middle school, had been used to getting the calls of like, Joey, did this, did that, like you need to come pick him up. And for her to get that message of like, I'm really thankful that that your kid is in my class, that he did this without being asked, without being prompted. She was like, oh, well, thank you. Like, what? Like, you're calling me for a good thing? And so again, the next time, that I would have to call about something, we had at least built that strong relationship on a positive note, where again, I was thankful for what he was doing. I, was reaching out to her directly to say, like, I'm really thankful. Thank you. When he gets home, please, acknowledge this. because that was very nice of him to have done this. And so again, building that strong foundation at the beginning of the school year, I think is key. Me, myself, and I, like one of my children received like one of those, or I received one of those calls, and I was like, oh, this principal's still doing this. This is wonderful that again, they're able then to build that connection with families to say like, yeah, I'm gonna, and again, this is for one of my kids, and I'm like, yeah, I know I'm gonna get a call about it later. But that I can at least build that strong foundation with them first to say like, yes, my kid is valuable. My kid is providing into your classroom some, engagement for you, teacher. And for me as a parent to say like, I'm getting these positive calls at the beginning so that when we do have to have the, yeah, we're gonna have to work on this. It at least will be a much gentler conversation versus it being like, let me tell you, parent, like you're not doing what you're supposed to, versus like, I see you and I value your child and I value that you're engaged. Again, it's one of those first things, right? Like making people feel seen and heard is so valuable. And I think again, starting it from the beginning of the school year makes such a difference for us to then have those difficult conversations with parents later on when we know we have to. But if you can, pinpoint like something that's small to you, but again, to that parent, if they've always received those negative phone calls, or maybe no phone call at all until you get to parent-teacher conference, what a difference it can make.
And I want to share too an example that we got from one of our regional leads. When Schuyler Community Schools are working on their strategic planning process, they wanted to figure out how to invite community involvement, but knew that at times it was difficult to get input from those families just because of the number of individuals in the areas that were employed by a nearby processing plant. And because of their shift schedules, it was really hard to kind of manage. And so the district worked with Cargill, the processing plant, to host that strategic planning meeting in a conference room at Cargill. They met throughout the day to account for those different shifts, and Cargill allowed 20 to 30 people to come off the line without clocking out so that they could meet with the district representative and give input regarding that direction of the school district. This just gives me like the warm fuzzies. Like I just love this idea that the school system thought outside of the box. They reached out to a local business in town, and that business supported what they were doing because again, they saw the value that if schools are partnering with families and children are having positive experience with schools and families are having positive experiences, then that increases their families attending school, attending work. We know there's a lot of statistics out there with childcare and getting children to where they need to be in school or at childcare, that has a large impact on families. And if families are having to work and having to miss work to take care of children, then that's really a big struggle that's happening. And so the idea that a school system partnered with a local processing plant to do that, it's awesome. I just love that. And looks like there was one, there we go. And Mackenzie put something in the chat. She has a positive call home example that a teacher's recently gone through the restorative practices training. And at the end of the day, they do a quick circle and give shout out to kids who did a good job of following the classroom values that day. And the teacher calls home to the parent of the student who had a lot of shout outs, and the kids love the circles and the families enjoy hearing that positive message. Thanks for sharing, Mackenzie. I think like Mariella said, it's that positive is what's really important. And if we think about with our students, we talk about 5-to-1 strategies, 5 positives to 1 negative. If we can flip the script and think about that with our families too, that when we're reaching out to our families, we're using their names, we're saying hello, we're starting off the year with, here's the great things that are happening. This is what I saw, as small as sharpening the pencils to classroom shout outs. And then when you have to call and speak to a family about maybe a challenging situation, they have the relationship, they have that positive bank of great things that are happening with their kiddos and the school system. So it really helps when that partnership can be formed when there is a challenge happening with their students. So we just can't hit that enough of just that stepping outside. This is another example of things that are happening in our state, TAP. And TAP is Teachers and Parents as Partners. So it is a program that builds partnerships between parents and teachers to help solve children's behavioral and academic challenges. TAP individualizes that approach that uses problem solving and decision making to build on student strengths, create plans for success, and monitor those outcomes. So this is a research-based model, and consultants work with the parents and teachers to address those needs. So this is a great also resource that is out there. And then we want schools to think about when we're talking about that continuous improvement, there are a variety of different family engagement surveys. I know I just filled out a family engagement survey for my school as a part of their continuous improvement program. So there's a lot of different ones that are out there, and they're asking questions of their families to see how they're being engaged. Are they meeting the needs? And then that helps the school system understand what are better ways to partnership and to build that partnership and to reach out. So these are just a few different examples. There's a comprehensive needs assessment, the IDRA Family Community Survey. There is the Panorama and the Flamboyant Foundation for Classroom Family Engagement. So utilize those resources. And then, as always, we want to make sure that we reach out and share with you our program comparison tool that's on our website. It's on the homepage. You click there, you can search. And we just wanted to highlight that you can search for programs that build teacher and parent skills. Here are some books. We have been trying to just share lots of different books and resources. So here are 3 that we have pulled out. Beyond the Bake Sale is in the middle, and that is one that Mariella shared with us. So it's a great resource of helping build those guides for family and student engagement, family school partnerships. Then there's the Enhancing Family School Collaborative and the Teachers and Parents as Partners. We are announcing our fall workshop series for Nebraska MTSS for our SEBL team. So we have those coming up in September. We have Aligning SEBL Efforts, which is on the 30th after the summit. So we hope to see you there. As always, here's all our Coffee Connect days that are coming up. So we hope to see you in October for our next one. And then here we've added this in, and we'll continue to highlight this, is our program comparison tool. So we'd love to hear back from you on your experience today. So completing the exit ticket for us, we would appreciate it. And then again, our next Coffee Connect is April 16th. And our topic is UDL, so that Universal Design for Learning and SEBL. And then finally, our optimistic closure. So just think, what I am looking forward to blank to help support family and community engagement in my buildings. So just scribble it down on a piece of paper, on a Post-it note, stick that up in your office, in your classroom, write it down. And if you would like to share, you're welcome to do that. But we just appreciate you all joining us this morning. And again, here is our contact information. But we are happy to have seen you all today. So thank you so much.